Hey there, this is Perch, and today it was like mailbag. It's mailbag edition. It's a letters page of this channel. So I get a lot of questions. Sometimes I struggle with how to make a entire 10 minutes on the topic, and there's just no way. So these are like the quick hits. I've got a big list here of questions or topics you'll want to hit or things they'd like my opinion on. I have no idea why, but here goes. So question number one: how come Captain Marvel made so much money even though it was terrible? Well, the answer is because a lot of people didn't think it was terrible and they paid for it. I don't know. Um, Captain Marvel is a movie. Just it took on a life of its own, like too much of a life of its own. Hey, look at what Brie Larson's saying. Hey, this costume. Hey, she's not smiling. Hey, she's mad. Hey, this is Marvel trying to force SJW down our throats, and on and on. And the reality is, it's in all these things. I think there's a lesson, for the people who are really, really wound up in Captain Marvel failing. I think there's a lesson here, and that is every now and then you got to take a step back outside the bubble, and you got to look at what's going on. And Captain Marvel was a Marvel movie. The Marvel movies all make a lot of money. Even the lowest earning ones make a lot of money. And this was heavily marketed. Now, I still believe, and I will stand by it. I think the marketing for Captain Marvel was really odd at the beginning. They kind of got their act together in the last 30 days, but the early marketing was weird. Just the way the trailers were structured and everything else, just kind of an odd way that I think it was put together. But I'm not going to knock it because it clearly worked. It seemed off from their other efforts, like Black Panther and Doctor Strange and others. It seemed like there was a misfire a little bit in the initial marketing. But at the end of the day, it's a Marvel film. It's going to make lots of money. It's a brand new character that they promoted heavily. They did try and use the Black Panther model of introducing somebody new and kind of building up the world. It also benefited from being a movie where they heavily implied that this was a character that was going to show up in Avengers Endgame and was going to be a big deal. And Avengers Endgame is kind of the finale. So this is the second to last film. I know Spider Man's being in there too, but second to last film, it was gonna make a ton of money. And it was funny because I'm not the haha I told you so person, but on Twitter I heavily pointed out this thing's gonna make a ton of money. I was pegging it at around 800 million worldwide. It crossed a billion, so it did do better than I thought. But keep in mind, 800 million is really good. That's in the top. I think that's in the top 40 movies, probably top 30 movies. Um, that's really good for a film. So I always predicted it was going to do well, and then people would come in like, no, 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 it's not. Everybody hates it. They're sick of Marvel's crap. It's like, well, I don't think so. Sorry, I don't agree. Sometimes the easiest answer is the simplest one, and the simple answer was it's a Marvel movie right before their biggest film of all time, capping off their big collection. Yeah, it was going to make money. So, why did it make money even though it was terrible? Again, plenty of people thought it wasn't terrible. I think even the people who are the conspiracy theorists who are saying that Disney was trying to pad the theaters and get people in. I mean, you could take a run at that if we're talking about a 250, $300 million film. They're not, when it's up to a billion. I mean, we at some point we have to admit to ourselves, yeah, it did well. It did well. And it was a fine film. I went and saw the film. It was fine. I mean, if you like Marvel films, you'll probably like that film. I mean, what are you gonna do? I like Christopher Nolan, his kind of deep thinking films. So I that film wasn't the best film for me, but you know, in fairness, neither are most of them. So so what are you gonna do? They do the job. Okay. Uh, Next question: can you draw or write a comic book while hammered? I mean, sure, yes. You can do it. People can do all kinds of things when they're hammered. I think, depending on how well you handle being hammered, is probably how well you're handling, how you're creating the book. But plenty of creators. I will say, plenty of creators are hammered when they're doing books. Please don't ask me, which ones. I don't know. Um, you read some comics back in the 70s and 80s, and you get the distinct impression that somebody was super hammered or high when they wrote it. But who knows? I maintain to this day, by the way, the Impossible Man was the result of some pretty serious weed, but maybe not. Um, and next question: why why can't comic prices just drop tomorrow? Alterna does it. Well, because and this is a more complex topic, but I wanted to give a quick short answer. It's because when you build up an economy based at a certain price point and a certain structure, if tomorrow you suddenly just cut the price in half, then the economy blows up. It's not, it's because what doesn't happen is if tomorrow you cut the comic price tag in half, suddenly 1,000 new customers are not going to wander into the comic store that afternoon and buy comics to make up that difference. Comics will not double overnight. It's going to take a long time. So then people like to point out, well, Alterna does it. Well, yeah, but they always have. So Alterna is started, has gone with this price point and gone with this printing style, and this is what they've set their economy. If Alterna were suddenly to drop their prices in half, like go 50 cents a book, or 75 cents a book, then they would be screwed too. You can't have rapid drops in price and expect the economy not to blow up on you. So, um, should comic prices come down? Yeah, I think absolutely. I think there has to be some other ways for it to happen, but none of that's going to happen overnight. You have to ease in. You take. Somebody said it very well. It takes a long time to get into something. It's going to take a long time to get out of it. You should start today. Start that clock, but it's going to take a long time. Next question. Should I open a comic store? And how much money does it take to open a comic store? Um, well, should you open one? I don't know. Do you have money hanging around? Are you willing to lose that money? And do you have a passion for this business? I think the world needs good brick and mortar shops with good customer service and people who are passionate and care. The world needs more of that. And if you can hit those notes, then you'll do okay. But you're not going to be rich, and it's going to be a tough climb. So that gets to the how much money do you need to open a shop? Um, I think you can do it a lot of different. You can do it a lot of different ways. I think if you are kind of quitting your job and you're going to go full on in, and you're going to run a comic store, I think you need to start. I would put that number probably around 400K. Of that's what I would do at that minimum. I would do that. I think you've got a lot of expenses. You need to have good bank. You need to be prepared to lose money for 2 years, I minimum. And I think that's money you're sinking into the shop and for expenses and background and hiring and all the rest. And then on top of that, you have to have money that you're living on. So it's a tough proposition. A friend of mine said he would never open up a comic shop with less than $1 million. And that's probably you don't need. I mean, depending on what your business ambitions are, that's too much. But it's not cheap, and I think costs come at you quick. And the challenge is, if you're opening up a business, and maybe this is a longer video, a longer topic, I would suggest in today's current climate and economy, you need to come in strong. You need to come in big. If you come in kind of barely skirting by with just enough money to survive, then that's where you get into the problem of you get a shop that one day needs a heater and you can't afford it, or the paint is peeling and you should put time into doing that, but you're too busy scrambling to find money to just keep the lights on month after month. If you run completely lean, then you start making decisions based on what you can and can't afford and do on any given moment, and that gets you into trouble in a hurry because you're not growing the business, you're surviving the business. And if you're going to have a shop, you need to be able to grow the business to be effective, especially over the next 10 years. I think those who can afford to grow the business and evolve the shop and do better will survive and ultimately thrive. Those that are going to tread water, I think, are going to get wiped out because too much of their fate depends on other people. I think if you're having a shop, you need to put the emphasis in your hands. You need to put the success in your hands. You can't, for example, a lot of shops depend on Batman. As we've talked about, it's a high seller. It's a big mover. It's a keep the lights on kind of title. And so, much respect to Tom King and DC for providing this nice, consistent, well-selling title. At the same time, Tom King goes off the title. People get tired of Tom King. He makes one move just that breaks the straw that breaks the camel's back, and then those orders drop in half over the course of a year, which, by the way, would be unprecedented. That things don't drop, just like the price discussion. Things don't drop that fast. But if suddenly there's softness and the tie-ins and the other kind of auxiliary books stop selling, then you get in trouble in a hurry. And if you're living kind of hand to mouth, barely surviving, you're basically putting your future in the hands of the publishers, who may or may not be making decisions that benefit you. You're completely tied to their fate, and you should always in life, you know, hold your fate in your own hands. Very hard to do. Next question. Who is my favorite writer right now? I like a lot of books. Rick Remender is probably my favorite writer right now, which is a shame because he never engages with me on Twitter. So I'm very, very sad about that. But I think Rick Remender, I think he brings big concepts. I like what he does. I'm a fan, been a fan for a long time, and I think he's very good at his craft. I like Jonathan Hickman a lot. Probably, I mean, the highs I've gotten with John Hickman have been higher than Remender, but I think Remender kind of consistently day in day out brings great comics to the table. So, but I think those two guys really, really good. Just very. That's what I like. It's a style that appeals to me. Um, so there you go. Historically, who are your favorite characters? Who are the comic characters that have always been your favorites? I mean, so over the years, there's been so many and different. I have not had one single character that over 30, 40 years has stayed in my heart as the character. It's always changed over time. I think some of those. There's a time I loved Wolverine. Like a lot of people, I liked Wolverine. Um, I've liked. I don't know. It's funny that is an impossible question for me to answer, because I think any character in the hands of a great writer will do great things. I'm not a big fan of Deadpool. I've never terribly loved that character. But when Remender was writing Deadpool, I thought it was a really clever Deadpool in X Force, and I liked that character. So I mean, that just goes to show. I think it's more based on how the character is being written than the character themselves. I think I've seen great stories with nearly every character out there. If I had to pick a character, I think I did the embarrassing video a while back. I thought Rain, Wolfsbane. For whatever reason, I always liked that character. I always liked how Claremont wrote that character, and I felt, maybe one better answer to this is when you feel that kind of irritation when a writer does the character wrong. That's how you know it's a character you really love. So I like Peter David a lot. I didn't like what Peter David did with Rain in X Factor. I was not a fan of that. I do like, and I was told that this is a lie on Twitter. I've expressed my appreciation for this character in the past, and I've been told that this is some kind of incel lie, and it's Monica Rambeau. I like that character. I've liked that character always. I like the confidence and the doubt and I've always really, really liked that character. And I, as the decades have gone by, that, her as Captain Marvel, I've really, really enjoyed. I don't know. I find myself really liking that character. I've liked that character in the hands of a lot of different writers. I haven't liked the way it always feels like in the more recent versions, in the Ultimates that Al Ewing wrote, and some of the other books, Mighty Avengers. It always felt more like they had to do two things simultaneously. They had to say, this character is super powerful. She's got powers that are amazing and really like the best powers in the world. And we're going to put her as a supporting character. It always feels like they hype up how strong she is, and then they immediately proceed to kind of bury her a little bit. It's weird to me. I think the character never feels like she's getting the respect that kind of the strong complexity of the character and the writing and and the power set deserves. It always, I mean, if you're the Avengers and you're facing some of these, super mega threats, Jesus, call Monica. I mean, just she can solve them. She's an amazing character. So how many problems could be solved if you just called Monica? I gotta think. Anyway, I've always loved that character though. Anyway, there you go. There's a handful of quick questions. I send me more. Send me more questions. Subscribe, hit the bell for notification. Let me know what you want me to talk about. We'll do more of these. Thanks for listening.